Welcome to the deep dive. We're your shortcut to understanding, well, some really complex cultural stuff shaping our world. Today, no financial reports, no political back and forth. We are diving straight into, honestly, a soundscape of just relentless existential fatigue.
Yeah, total exhaustion. Today we're looking at Ghostemane, the artist Eric Whitney. He's this figure who sits right at a fascinating crossroads, doesn't he? Trap beats, industrial noise, metals aggression, and this really deep nihilistic vibe.
And we're zeroing in on one specific track, Fed Up from his 2020 album, Anti-Icon.
Right, anti-icon.
And our mission here, well, it's pretty ambitious. We're not just, reviewing a song. We're treating Fed Up like a piece of cultural evidence, a real artifact. We want to use its lyrics, its sound, even its engineering to unpack some huge modern issues. Things like the weirdness of celebrity today, the actual brain science of addiction, and what happens when people feel like all the old answers, all the philosophies just don't work anymore.
It's an incredibly dense piece of work, and it really does act as a shortcut, like you said.
Yeah.
It helps you understand this specific cultural moment. And listeners need to get that this isn't just him complaining. Not at all.
No.
It feels more like a carefully built manifesto.
Yeah.
Super honest, just laying out this feeling of being completely drained, personally and spiritually.
And the hook is immediate, isn't it? It's right there in the title. Fed Up. He says it. What was the count? 32 times.
32 times, yeah. And that number, it feels intentional. It's not just a catchy chorus line.
It's structural, almost like programming.
Exactly. It pushes it way beyond a simple refrain. That relentless repetition, it's designed, I think, to mirror the very feeling he's talking about.
Yeah.
Chronic anxiety, that obsessive thought loop and depression, feeling trapped.
Yeah.
It's like verbal hypnosis. It locks him and us as listeners right into that state of just unrelenting tiredness.
It's like a panic attack turned into sound, one that just never peaks or ends. And for this deep dive, we've pulled together a lot. Obviously the lyrics, his confessions, but also academic stuff, right? Sociology, philosophy, psychology.
Transdisciplinary. And we even dug into the technical side, the sound engineering specs. How did they actually build this feeling sonically?
It's fascinating how he takes these really intense private struggles, things most people would hide, and just puts them out there. It makes them understandable somehow, even though it's incredibly painful.
It really is a document of just existing without any real comfort. Let's get right into it. Start with the core argument right there in the chorus.
Okay, so the chorus. What's striking is how direct it is. There's no hiding behind complex metaphors, is there?
Not at all. It's brutally honest, clinical almost. It immediately sets up what we've kind of identified as these 4 pillars supporting his misery. And it starts, bang, right away with the reality of addiction.
Fed up. I'm fed up with the drugs.
Yeah. Seems simple, but you have to think about the context. In trap, in emo rap sometimes, drug use can be, stylized, glamorized even, or just shorthand for being rebellious.
Right.
But Ghostemane here, he flips that completely. He's not celebrating it.
He's showing the downside, the exhaustion.
Precisely. It's framed explicitly as being tired of it. He sees the addiction as a prison, not a solution, not some cool accessory. The misery of depending on it has just totally swallowed up any escape it might have offered before.
He realizes the medicine has become the main disease.
That's it exactly.
Yeah.
The thing he used for relief is now the main source of his suffering.
And that exhaustion connects straight to the second pillar, doesn't it? The social devastation. Fed up with the fake love. This feels like more than just the usual celebrity, oh, nobody's real complaint.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
He links this isolation directly to fame itself. And this is where bringing a bit of sociology helps. It really feels like he's describing a state that Emil Durkheim called anomie.
Anomie. Okay, break that down for us in this context. What does that mean here?
Sure. So anomie is basically a state of social breakdown. Like the usual rules, the social norms, the ethical guidelines, they just don't seem to apply or feel relevant anymore. And weirdly, it often happens when things change really fast for someone or society, like extreme social mobility.
Which Ghostemane definitely had, moving from obscurity to huge success.
Exactly. He achieved that massive social jump, got the material success everyone's told to chase. But that very success seems to have just destroyed the possibility of real, genuine connection, unconditional connection.
So he's got people all around him, fans, industry folks, whoever, but he's totally lacking actual community.
That's the feeling, yeah. The love he gets is conditional. It's transactional. Often it feels parasitic based on the lyrics. People want the image of Ghostemane, the aesthetic, the successful brand. They don't necessarily want Eric Whitney, the actual person.
Wow.
And that gap, realizing every interaction is filtered through his fame, it creates this profound absolute isolation, even though he's super visible. The rules of normal human interaction just break down for him. He's socially adrift.
Yeah, that's devastating. The more people see you, the less they see you, the real you. And the pressure from that, the isolation, the addiction, it leads to the third pillar. And this one, our sources noted, is incredibly raw, graphic even.
Put the gun in my brain, go bang.
Right.
It's an expression of active, intense, suicidal ideation. And we have to place it within the genre trap metal, where lines like this can sometimes be, just for shock. Hyperbole.
Right. So how do we know this is different? How do we read it as more than just trying to shock?
Oh, I think it's the context leading up to it. The addiction he just described, the crushing enemy. It grounds this line in something that feels much more like raw emotional reality.
It feels earned in a horrible way.
Yeah, and it connects to this idea of control. When everything feels out of control, fame controlling you, addiction controlling you, the demands of the brand controlling you, this extreme thought, it represents a desperate desire for ultimate absolute control, a way to just stop the noise.
The noise of the 32 fed-up repetitions.
Exactly. It's the longing to just end the loop. It takes that cliche of wanting to end it all and makes it brutally literal, stripping away any ironic distance. It becomes the final escape fantasy when every other escape route has failed him.
It makes the internal pain feel terrifyingly physical, potentially. But then, right after that darkness, comes the final pillar, and maybe the most affecting one, filial responsibility, where the existential crisis meets real-world obligations.
Yeah, this is the line that really hits hard emotionally. It anchors the whole song. Got a crib for my mama because I don't think I'm going to live too much longer. Now think about that act.
In hip-hop especially, buying your mama house is huge. It's the ultimate I made it sign, the reward for the struggle, securing the family.
Right. It's usually framed as this triumphant new beginning. But he twists it entirely. It's not celebratory. It's presented as a final act, a preemptive one.
A premature last will and testament, almost.
Exactly. The sources use this really dense phrase, the effective economics of premonitory mortality.
Okay, unpack that.
Yeah. It basically means this. He's using the money he earned, money that came from the fame and lifestyle that he feels is killing him, to secure the one relationship he sees as truly genuine, truly unconditional, his mother.
So it's this act of deep practical love, but it's completely overshadowed by his own feeling of impending doom. He's saying, look, I think I'm checking out soon, so my last job is to make sure she's okay.
The irony is just crushing. He reaches the pinnacle of material success, but he does it feeling like he's already on death row. It points to this profound fatalism, like he sees his life's story as basically over, and he's just tidying up the loose ends, settling his spiritual affairs.
He's using his success not to brag, but to testify to his own failure to survive it.
Yeah, and what's amazing when you put these four pillars together is how he articulates these really complex modern problems, anomie, addiction, fatalism, with such simple, direct, gut-wrenching language.
And that repetition, fed up, it stops being just a phrase. It feels like the only possible response left when you're trapped in that kind of suffering.
It's the sound of someone hitting a wall, a spiritual wall. And that wall is built, ironically, out of the bricks of success.
Which brings us perfectly to verse 1, where he really digs into how that paradox works.
Yeah, verse 1 hits you immediately with that core conflict, the struggle of the modern celebrity, especially one coming from like a punk or hardcore background.
That line is just perfect. I'm in $1 million couch. Back then, I was in a van. That one sentence, it holds the entire spiritual crisis of fame under late capitalism.
That's the past, right? The grind, the poverty maybe, touring with bands, being uncomfortable, but also maybe authenticity, a direct line to why he was making art.
Definitely. And the couch, that's the ultimate material success, opulence. He's arrived. But the devastating insight, and our sources really point this out, is that getting there didn't bring peace. It didn't bring happiness. It actually seemed to just make the spiritual emptiness louder, the emptiness he was trying to self-medicate in the first place. It sounds exactly like that economic idea, the Easterlin paradox. Yeah. Once your basic needs are covered, more money doesn't necessarily make you happier. The returns diminish.
Absolutely. The Easterlin paradox nails it. But Ghostemane's case suggests that for some artists, especially those tied to counterculture, those returns on happiness might even go negative. The wealth takes away the need to struggle, maybe, but it also takes away the purpose that came with the struggle.
So life in the van, yeah, it was harder physically, but it had this built-in purpose, this real connection to the art. And that was, ironically, more fulfilling than sitting alone on $1 million couch. The struggle was real, but the dream, the success, feels hollow.
And that hollowness fuels the isolation, fuels the need for the drugs he's fed up with. It's this vicious cycle. The supposed solution, fame and money, just makes the psychological problem worse. It really feels like a critique of how capitalism sells us dreams that are fundamentally toxic to our well-being.
Okay, so moving from the material stuff to the identity crisis. The feeling of losing control. He says it so painfully. I'm sick of reading my name in any other way than I intended.
This is perfect for looking at it through semiotics, the study of signs. Ghostemane, the name, the look, it's a sign, right?
Yeah.
And the artist, Eric Whitney, he created that sign intending it to mean certain things. Nihilism, anti-conformity, maybe critiquing the mainstream.
But once it's out there in the world, other people start interpreting it. It's not just his anymore.
Exactly. The audience, the media, even casual listeners, they become the decoders. And they kind of colonize the sign, they project their own stuff onto it, they simplify it or misunderstand it or turn it into something sensational. And you get this dissonance of personal brand.
His real complex pain, the depression, the addiction, it just gets flattened into entertainment. Or worse, just an aesthetic. Something you can buy on a t-shirt.
Yeah. He's fighting to own his own narrative. He sees his suffering being commercialized and totally misread.
And that's alienating.
Deeply. He calls out, the motherfuckers misunderstanding me, and the ones who try to say you a fan of me, but then they turn their back and motherfuckers abandon me. The loyalty feels fake, performative. They like the image when it's cool or profitable, but the moment the actual human shows vulnerability or doesn't fit the image they bought into, they're gone.
It's the ultimate isolation, isn't it? You're more visible than ever, but completely misunderstood. You're basically a commodity. And this idea becoming like a machine, losing control, it leads right into that weird little bridge, just repeating, AI, 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 AI.
That short bit, yeah, and it's conceptually huge. It feels like the explicit arrival point of dehumanization. He has lost control of his name, his pain, his story. So he feels like a product, a machine, artificial intelligence.
Trapped in that loop we talked about earlier, the fed-up loop.
Right, because he's lost control over his own programming, metaphorically speaking.
It's like this cyberpunk nightmare playing out. He gamed the system to get success, but the price was realizing he only succeeded because he functions like a profitable algorithm now. His art is just the output of a broken machine.
And the sound design right there, which we'll get into more, it backs this up perfectly. The vocals already have that kind of synthetic feel sometimes, but in the bridge, you get these glitch effects, stutters. It literally sounds like the AI is malfunctioning, crashing.
It's the artist screaming from inside the machine.
Yeah. Using technical failure to show emotional failure. That's what makes this more than just, genre music. But okay, the AI can't run forever. Let's get to verse 2. He shifts here from the big philosophical stuff to the really specific, brutal chemical reality of his fight. Right. So, verse 2. We move past just drugs as a general term. He gets incredibly specific, clinical almost, he says. On a benzo bender withdrawal, never go back, no. And naming benzodiazepine, Xanax, Valium, that class of drugs that is absolutely key to understanding just how bad things are.
Why the specificity? Why is benzo withdrawal different, say, from coming off opioids or something else? What makes it so central here?
Well, pharmacologically, neurobiologically, benzo withdrawal is. It's its own kind of hell. Benzos work as central nervous system depressants. They boost GABA, the brain's main calm-down neurotransmitter. They slow everything down. Anxiety, thoughts, they help you sleep.
Okay, so if you're on a bender, using heavily, your brain gets used to that external calm-down signal.
Totally reliant on it. The brain basically dials back its own natural relaxation systems. So when you suddenly stop or try to withdraw, you get this massive, often dangerous rebound effect. It's called neuronal hyperexcitability.
So the system that was suppressed goes into overdrive.
Exactly, hyperdrive. And physically, that means absolute misery. Extreme anxiety, panic attacks that won't stop, terrible insomnia, confusion, and yeah, even a real risk of seizures. It can be life-threatening.
So when he says fed up with the drugs, he's partly protesting against that specific physical agony, the body rebelling during withdrawal.
That feels like a huge part of it. The body is in revolt. And that line, never go back, no, you don't read it as some confident, I'm clean statement. It sounds more like a fragile, desperate promise made in the absolute pit of withdrawal.
The addict realizing the cure became way worse than the disease?
Yeah. He's recognizing that the chemical fix is now exponentially more agonizing than the existential pain it was supposed to numb. He's choosing the awful pain of getting clean over the devastating cycle of dependence. It's a very specific kind of low point.
And that intense struggle, it bleeds into the feeling of just total abandonment later in the verse. He puts it in such a modern, almost darkly funny way.
Say a prayer to someone who cares, and nobody listening, or we left you on red again.
Yeah, it's the complete secularization of prayer, right? Done with this perfect contemporary cynicism. People have always dealt with divine silence, feeling like God isn't listening or isn't there.
Right, the age-old question.
And Ghostemane just equates that ancient spiritual problem with the most mundane, everyday digital rejection, getting left on red. That blue tick of doom.
Exactly. The silence of God is the same as the silence after your text message. It implies this very modern expectation of, instant response, even from the cosmos. He reaches out for help, maybe to friends, maybe to something higher, and gets the same cold shoulder, the same notification, messages seen, deliberately ignored.
Wow. That captures modern isolation perfectly, and it all builds to this final sweeping rejection of any traditional meaning system, the nihilist conclusion.
He moves beyond just using, say, satanic imagery for shock value, which happens a lot in the genre. This feels like a real philosophical stance. Never again will I put my faith in a religion, no God or Satan going to make me understand I'm dealt a bad hand.
So it's not just teenage down with authority. It's rejecting all the big stories. Good versus evil, divine plans, all of it.
It feels like pure, cold, existential nihilism. He's rejecting the idea of a benevolent meaning maker, God, and also the idea of a malevolent one, Satan, providing some kind of cosmic struggle. The conclusion is just suffering is random, it's absurd, it doesn't mean anything beyond itself.
And the bad hand metaphor, like from poker.
Yeah, exactly, like from cards or game theory.
Yeah.
Life isn't a test from God or punishment for sin or part of some grand design. It's just deterministic bad luck. You got dealt a shitty hand at the start.
It reminds me of Camus, the absurd, the clash between our need for meaning and a universe that offers none.
Precisely. It's the Camusian absurd playing out. He concludes his pain, the addiction, the fame-induced isolation, all of it. It's just a random, unfair starting point. And no external faith system, good or bad, can explain it away. It's a very modern, secular way to cope with immense suffering. Except there's no big story, only the raw deal.
He tried the chemical escape, the material escape, the spiritual escape, and they all led back to the same place. I'm fed up.
And the power is that it offers zero comfort, which is the point. If there's no meaning, there's no comfort. There's only the sound of being trapped. Which leads us perfectly into the final part, because the sound engineering itself becomes the sonic expression of that philosophical trap. Yeah. Okay, so now we need to really shift focus to the sound, the production, because the sources are clear. These engineering choices weren't accidental. They are meant to be the literal, audible manifestation of his mental state, the architecture of the void, as one source put it.
Right. The overall vibe is described as the manifestación sónica del hartazgo, the sonic manifestation of exhaustion. How does that actually translate into knobs and faders? What does it sound like?
It means the whole aesthetic is deliberately minimal, cold, and really claustrophobic. The goal wasn't sonic clarity, that pristine sound you get in a lot of big pop productions. The goal was density, proximity.
Making it feel close and heavy.
Yeah, the mix is engineered to feel oppressive, reflecting his internal state. It's not supposed to feel pleasant. It's supposed to feel heavy.
And the reverb. The sources mention heavy reverb use. That must play a big part in creating that oppressive feeling, right?
Oh, absolutely. Reverb is everywhere, on almost everything. And it creates this massive sense of distance, but also echoing isolation. It makes his voice, the instruments, sound like they're bouncing around inside some huge, cold, empty warehouse or mansion.
Like being alone in a giant empty space, which mirrors some of his visuals too.
Exactly. It emphasizes the loneliness within success, simultaneously vast and incredibly isolating.
Okay, let's break down the core conflict in the sound itself. The tension. You mentioned contrasting elements. What are the main forces pushing against each other in the instrumental?
You've got this perfect psychological battleground in the mix. First, representing the emotional pain, you have that melancholy guitar line.
Right, the loop?
Yeah, it's a clean electric guitar, but heavily processed, loads of delay, that heavy reverb we mentioned. The sources called it a funebre nana, a funeral lullaby, or like a broken music box. It's super slow, super repetitive.
Like obsessive thoughts going round and round.
Perfectly mimics that depressive loop. It's the sound of slow, grinding decay.
And then pushing against that slow decay, you've got the element bringing the speed, the anxiety, the trap drums.
Correct. That's the anxiety and also that oppressive weight. You can break the drums down further. You've got the hi-hats.
Yeah, they're really fast.
Incredibly fast, sharp, nervous, often programmed with these rapid-fire 30-second note triplets. They sound like that constant agitation, that anxiety buzzing just below the surface of the depression. They provide this urgent, jittery energy that never lets you relax.
And then the foundation, the 808 bass. You called it the peso oppressivo, the oppressive weight. That sounds like it's meant to feel physical.
It absolutely is. That's the physical heaviness of depression made audible. The 808 is engineered to be really deep, heavily saturated, meaning distorted just enough to add texture and glue and retumbancy rumbling. It hits hard in that low sub-bass range, like 30 to 80 hertz.
So on a good sound system, you don't just hear it, you feel it.
You feel it in your chest, like a physical weight. The production literally forces you into the middle of this mental state. The slow, crushing pressure of depression, guitar in 808, being constantly poked and agitated by the fast, nervous energy of anxiety, the hi-hats.
That's really smart sound design. Okay, let's talk vocals. Ghostemane is known for these huge, powerful screams sometimes. But his delivery on Fed Up is totally different. Why? And how does the processing make it feel artificial?
Yeah, he completely pulls back from the scream here. The delivery is tired, it's melodic, but in this really defeated, monotone way. He uses a lot of vocal fry, that low, gravelly, crackling sound in the voice.
That's how your voice is breaking.
Exactly. Instead of projecting power, it sounds like someone who's been crying or yelling or just mentally wrestling for hours and has nothing left but this exhausted, broken whisper. It's incredibly vulnerable, incredibly fatigued.
And then they take that vulnerability and process it to sound almost synthetic.
Yeah.
Which ties back to the AI thing.
Absolutely. There's subtle but really important use of pitch correction. Autotune Pro, probably. Often set to a super fast retune speed, maybe even 0 milliseconds. That's a deliberate choice.
To get that polished but slightly uncanny emo rap sound.
Right, that melancholy artificial sheen. And the paradox is brilliant. He's delivering this incredibly raw, honest confession, but through a voice that sounds synthetically processed. It just hammers home that theme of dehumanization. The artist is a piece of malfunctioning, sad software.
And the sources mention hypercompression on the vocals, too, like an 8.1 ratio. To translate that for us, what does that do to the feeling?
Okay, so hypercompression, especially with a high ratio like 8.1, it basically squashes the dynamic range flat. Imagine the natural ups and downs in volume when someone speaks or sings. Compression reduces the difference between the loudest and quietest parts.
So no loud peaks, no quiet valleys, just flat.
Exactly. It keeps the vocal at a very consistent level, volume. Metaphorically, it's like squeezing all the air out of the emotion so it can't really expand or escape. It makes the vocal feel like this constant, contained scream, all this pressure, but it's trapped, unable to be fully released. It contributes massively to that feeling of emotional flatness contained breakdown.
So he feels squeezed flat by fame, and the compressor squeezes his vocals flat.
It's a perfect echo of the theme in the technique. And then there's the overall mastering, the final touches that shape the whole experience. The production goes for density and sheer impact over any kind of sonic clarity.
We see that in the loudness level, right? The LUFS measurement.
Yes. The final master is deliberately loud, extremely compressed overall, targeting an integrated loudness around megas 8 to megas 9 LUFS. Now, for anyone not into audio engineering, that is really loud. It means the signal is constantly pushed right up to the maximum level.
And what does that achieve artistically?
It directly causes something called listener fatigue. The track is physically tiring to listen to for extended periods, which, again, perfectly mirrors the emotional and sensory exhaustion Ghostemane is describing. The song is designed to make you feel fed up just by listening to it.
That's a bold move, making the listening experience itself embody the song's theme. What about the music itself, the harmony?
Also really interesting. And unusual for something this popular. The track basically uses what's called a monoraise harmonica, a single harmonic root. It's heavily centered around one chord, or note in this case. A re minor seems to be the anchor. There isn't really a traditional chord progression that moves things forward, creates tension, and then resolves.
It just kind of sits there, doesn't go anywhere musically.
Pretty much. It stays rooted in that one heavy, melancholic place. And that lack of musical progression, that refusal to resolve, it perfectly reinforces the lyrical theme of being stuck, trapped.
Estancamiento existential. Existential stagnation made audible.
Exactly. There's no musical release because there's no emotional release or progress happening for him. It's like the needle jumping back to the same spot on a record. It is the sound of that repetitive, fed-up loop. And then, just to drive it home, they throw in those glitch effects.
Make it sound like a breakdown, digital decay.
Yeah. You hear things like the tape stop effect, where the sound suddenly slows down and pitches down like an old tape machine stopping. And those harsh glitch or stutter edits, especially in that AI bridge, they deliberately fragment the sound, break the reality of it. It immerses you in the sound of a mind or maybe a system fracturing under pressure.
It's chaos, but it sounds meticulously crafted.
Absolutely. Every technical choice feels calibrated to amplify that feeling of the cold, unavoidable collapse. Hashtag tag outro.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into Ghostemane's Fed Up really shows it's so much more than just, an angry rap song or a cool genre blend. It feels like a really detailed dissection of modern suffering, the social side, the philosophical side, even the brain chemistry.
Yeah, when you put it all together, the technical stuff like the brutal loudness, the flat compression, that static harmony, and you map it onto the lyrics about anomie, about the hollowness of success, the Eastland paradox, you see this picture emerge. Getting everything he thought he wanted, the money, the fame, it just utterly failed to fix the deep internal pain.
And in fact, might have made it worse by stripping away the realness, the community he actually needed.
Seems that way. The whole song feels like this incredibly dense case study on what's wrong with the attention economy, with late capitalism. How everything, even intense suffering, gets turned into a product, consumed and maybe misunderstood.
He reached the supposed goal of the whole system. The money, the influence, that million-dollar couch, only to find the system itself feels fundamentally broken, or at least broke him.
And that act, buying the house for his mom, it's not the triumphant reward. It's framed almost like this tragic final payment made with the currency of his own self-destruction. An act of love, yes, but coated in resignation. The song manages to turn all that internal chaos into this stark, enduring piece of art.
Which leads us to our final thought. Something for you, the listener, to chew on as you think about this track, about that relentless, fed-up loop.
We live in this weird time, right? Everyone demands authenticity. But often, trauma only gets rewarded if it's kind of cleaned up, packaged nicely, made consumable. Ghost Urban here, he's just documenting the decay raw.
So here's the question. In this kind of environment, maybe the most authentic way to survive, artistically at least, isn't trying to escape the fed-up feeling. Maybe it's about learning how to just exist inside that constant exhaustion, accept it as the baseline, and then turn that brutal truth into your art.
That acceptance, maybe. That unflinching documentation of the breakdown. Maybe that becomes the final paradoxical act of resistance for him. Finding a kind of structure in the sound of falling apart.
Making the sound of being trapped feel real.
Exactly. The ultimate survival mechanism for right now.
Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.